Today, I want to talk about Outbreak, and that may seem a little bit random, but there is a reason for this. Because just the other day, people were able to get into Modern Warfare 2, and then when they were going through all the maps and modes, they actually found references to round-based and Outbreak zombies. And this is interesting because some people were assuming that maybe this has something to do with Modern Warfare 2, and I've actually made a video on the possibilities of that I'll link on screen right now. But in this video, we're going to go with what is probably more likely of why we're seeing the references to zombies in Modern Warfare 2. And what that is that these are files for COD 2024, or in other words, Treyarch's next game. And that may sound like a little unrealistic, like why the heck is Treyarch's files mixed in with Modern Warfare 2? Well, this has happened before with Warzone Mobile, where a bunch of files got mixed in with all the different games, and the reason this happens is because they're all sharing the same engine now. So that's why it's all happening, and that's why we've seen stuff like this happen before, and that's why we're probably expecting that this is what's happening again. But of course, this brings us to the point of this video, Outbreak, because the thing is that the mentions of zombies was to round base and Outbreak, and this would imply that COD 2024 is going to be getting Outbreak 2, or its new iteration of it. And this is very interesting, because if we assume this is the case, there's a lot of things we could talk about here. I think first things first, I want to talk about it from my own personal perspectives, and then I'll talk about what I think they need to do to improve Outbreak for their next game, because I think that is very necessary. But first off, I personally have no problem with Outbreak coming back in their next game. In fact, I've been saying for a while that Outbreak is necessary for the future success of zombies. And I'm not saying this because I want it to replace round base. No, round base has to be the heart and soul of zombies at the end of the day, but it needs something to complement them, and Outbreak does that, and it complements them in the best way. Because the problem with round base is that it's hard to update those maps. Like, they've tried different things here and there, but it never really worked out for them, and that's something that a lot of people want out of video games today. They want their video games updated on a more consistent level and not just having big drops like full maps releases, which is what zombies traditionally was. And because of that, I think Outbreak is that perfect thing that we could be playing in between the major drops of round based maps. Because I mean, just think of Outbreak itself in Cold War. Like, it started off super bare bones. I think only 4 maps, no Easter eggs, no side objectives, no side Easter eggs. Like, there was really not much to do except the main objective. But if we look at it how it ended off, like, it had like 8 maps, which maybe wasn't a good thing, a ton of new objectives, a ton of side objectives, side Easter eggs, and 2 full main freaking Easter eggs. Like, that's what they did solely through updates, and that's something that round base could never do. And this is why I think it is necessary for the future of COD Zombies. But at the same time, just because I think it is necessary for the future of COD Zombies does not mean that Outbreak in Cold War was perfect by any means. It had some major problems. And that's why I want to kind of shift over a bit and talk about what they need to do, Treyarch that is, in order to make Outbreak take that next step in COD 2024. Because if I'm being completely honest, Outbreak in Cold War, as much as I liked it, it had a ton of problems, but I was willing to overlook them because it was the first time Treyarch was trying to do something new with zombies, so I overlooked them. But with your second iteration, that excuse is out the window and you can no longer make those same mistakes. So what is it that Treyarch needs to do in order to make Outbreak take that next step? Well, the first, and personally what I think the most important thing is that what they need to do is the maps. The maps need to be better, because as we all know, all the maps on the original Outbreak were all just reused from a canceled Blackout 2. Like, that's what the maps were, and it was really weird. It completely threw off the vibe, which really sucks because zombies really lives on vibes, if we're being honest. Like, vibes are super important, and Outbreak had none of those, which really sucked because it just wasn't cool. It didn't feel cool. As much fun as I was having, I wasn't feeling like I was playing zombies, and that's why I think that they need to make original maps for Outbreak. You could still jump through all the different maps, obviously, because it's going to be objective / world based, whatever you really want to call it, but I think the maps individually have to be original. And honestly, I would not be upset if, to save some work, that some of the sections of the Outbreak maps, even if they are original, they do reuse them into round-based maps later. Because imagine how cool it would be if, like, you're just playing on a section of Origins, for example, pretend Origins didn't come out for a second, but and then all of a sudden later on in the season you're playing on the full map. Like, it would be pretty cool if you ask me. So to me, I think that they could do a lot of tricks. They could have maps that are exclusively for Outbreak or just original, and then they are reused for rather existing or future round-based maps. Like, I think that would be really cool. But another thing about these Outbreak maps, they do need to be condensed a bit. Like, they were too big in my opinion. I'm not saying they should become like super small, that's not what I'm saying here at all, but I do think that they need to be like about cut in half. They should still be kind of bigger, but not too big is what I'm saying here. But overall, that alone would be already a huge step forward for Outbreak. Just having original maps that aren't too big, like that would be great for Outbreak. But of course, that's not it. There is definitely some other things that need to take a step forward on, and this first one has to do with the launch of Outbreak, because regardless of when Outbreak launches, if it's like through Season 1, Season 2, or even at launch, whenever it happens, when it launches, it has to be a little bit more than what we got with the launch of the original Outbreak, because the original Outbreak was very bare bones. There was just do the objectives and that was it, which wasn't really exciting by any stretch of the imagination. So they do have to kind of just make launch a little bit crazier. You need from the get-go to have side objectives and side Easter eggs, and maybe this one not as much, but it would be nice if you just had a main Easter egg at the launch of Outbreak, especially if Outbreak is at the launch of the game. I mean, at that point, 100% need to launch with a main Easter egg. Later, if it comes out in like a season reloaded or something like that, like I can understand, but at launch, if you're doing that, it has to come out with a main Easter egg. And I'm sure there's a lot of other smaller things that we could go over in this video that 100% I could do, but I just don't think that this is a video for that. So instead, I'll wrap it up with just one last big thing that I think they need to figure out for Outbreak 2 could make that really big step forward. And what that is the objectives, because this has been the thing that has annoyed me more than anything about Outbreak, and it's the fact that objectives, I mean, I personally just get tired of them pretty fast. I'm gonna be honest, I do. And I think the main reason for this is because I just felt like the objectives could have been better. Honestly, I feel like they really could have. I mean, they could have been cooler, they could have been more creative, but a lot of them weren't. And then some of them were just straight up bad. Like, I don't really like escort objectives all too much. I mean, they were fine for Outbreak. They weren't like really bad because on round base they are the worst thing ever, but they were, I guess, fine on Outbreak. But I just want to see something more. I don't know what exactly more is, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, but thankfully I'm not a developer, so I don't gotta figure that one out. And even though I said I wasn't going to bring any small things in there, I do want to mention one thing. I think it would be cool if they just made it a possibility to become round based on Outbreak also. But regardless, that's about it for this video, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about the possibility of an Outbreak 2 coming with COD 2024. Do you guys like the idea of that? Hate the idea of it? And if you like it, like, tell me what kind of changes you need to see for Outbreak 2 to be successful in its next iteration. Let me know all of that down in the comment section below. Regardless though, that's going to wrap it up for me. If you guys did enjoy the video, definitely do all the normal YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, bell, share, and all that great stuff. But I'm going to go catch you guys next stream, video, or whatever the heck it may be. And laters, guys.